Yes.
Hello, good to see you.
Hi.
You.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you.
Yes, Renée Zellweger recognized me. I cannot believe Renée Zellweger recognized me.
I have to give you a hug.
Yeah, we'll do it afterwards. Yeah, okay. And we even whispered. I mean, when Renée Zellweger whispers to you, you whisper back. Why are we whispering? I don't know, but we whispered. And I made Leo Woodall laugh, so... On this episode of The Parting Shot, I am chatting with the cast of Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. That's Renée Zellweger, Leo Woodall, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. We talked about the legacy of Bridget Jones, what it was like for Leo and Chiwetel to join the mini-men of Bridget Jones, because, you know, they joined the ranks of like Colin Firth and Hugh Grant, and that's hard to do. And for Renée, what it's like to represent a character that means so much to so many people. Enjoy, because I'm still recovering from Renée Zellweger knowing who I am.
Renée, Leo, Chiwetel, so honored to meet all of you. This is fantastic. I have to ask you, Renée, though, like Bridget, I've been talking to women on the street in London this week and not, you know, appropriately. Every single one talks about how relatable Bridget is and how they see themselves in Bridget. So like, how does it feel to represent so many women with this character, like that they see themselves through what you're doing with this character?
That's really special. It's a really cool thing to have something in common with people wherever you go, really. You know, people come up and say hello and want to share their Bridget experiences with me. And what a blessing, right? And I understand it because I recognize myself in her as well, you know, particularly the clumsy and awkward bits, you know. So, yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for telling me about that.
Oh, so I mean, literally every chat I've had this week has been that. And also the two of you and how excited they are for, I mean, to follow in the steps of Hugh Grant and Colin Firth. How does it feel were you nervous sort of following in the footsteps of Colin and Hugh in sort of being Bridget's men? But then also, what is it about the character of Bridget Jones that makes her such an iconic rom-com lead for a male actor?
Following their footsteps would make anyone nervous. So there was intimidation, but then quickly you remember that they're irreplaceable characters. They're not trying to replace them with us. And it's really fun for me as a young actor to come into this, having, you know, it's been around, you know, not my entire life, but close to it.
Quick to point out.
I'd like to point out,
not all of
I
it.
was born. Yeah, so it's very exciting for me to do that and work with Chiwetel and obviously Renée, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same way. You know, these are two really great parts that, you know, nothing could replace, you know, Daniel and Mark, and, you know, there's not even an attempt to do that really. It's, you know, where Bridget is in her life now is in a slightly different place, and she meets, you know, two completely sort of different guys. But what is in common with the past is that they're, you know, in terms of the film, is that they're just really fun, well written parts that you can really kind of, you know, get your teeth into. And there's just a lot of subtext there as well. And that's what I loved about Mr. Wallaker. You know, I just thought, I thought he was great. You know, when I read the part, I was like, this is just a great part. I really like this guy. You know, I know he's a little uptight and that kind of, you know, when we first meet him, but I really liked, you know, I just loved who he is and what he sort of represents, you know, and how he interacts with Bridget and with Bridget's children, and you know, especially Billy, and the challenges that they're facing, and what Mr. Wallaker as an educator kind of thinks and does around that, you know, just felt really honest to me actually, and just felt, you know, I felt really engaged with him and his whistle and his his way of looking at the world, and the dynamics, you know, I just thought were really rich and, you know, very, very special.
And also, I mean, there are so many Easter eggs in this movie from the past films that just for a fan make us so excited, from the granny panties to the blue cocktail in this one, but not so much blue soup, but so many things. So like, does anything stand out from all of the films for all of you, that a great line or a great moment that you always think about and maybe makes you smile?
Oh, wow.
So many.
I love yours that you picked up on for with James.
With the fight.
Yeah.
The real fight.
Real fight.
A real fight. He walks in, yeah. I mean, that's just a classic, a classic moment. That whole fight sequence, and then it's raining men coming in on the top of it. It's just like you're fist pumping by the end of it. It's totally brilliant. Yeah.
What about for you, Renee?
Oh, there's so many, with Mark Darcy by the Christmas tree. And I love in the fight the things that they're saying when they're in the interim, when it pauses for a minute and they're apologizing for ruining people's dinner, meanwhile trying to scrabble, with each other. I love come here, you daft cow. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah. What about you, Leo?
As you were talking about the fight, I suddenly remembered that hilarious bit where they suddenly have to stop to sing happy birthday. And Mark goes, happy birthday. What's his name? Love that bit.
What do you hope people take from this film, especially fans, hardcore fans of Bridget Jones? What's the lasting message you want people to take?
I think it was always going to be complicated, right, with something like this, because it is so beloved, and you're always going to be trying to sort of thread the needle between certain things, and you don't want to lean too heavily on the past or, turn it so ferociously in a new direction that everybody gets thrown. And so when I was reading it, I was very intrigued by what that particular suit would be, And I think it's just been done beautifully, actually beautifully, beyond my expectation of it at all, of how fans of Bridget Jones can love this film and love all of the things that are familiar, but also feel very connected to how she's evolved and how the world has evolved as well, how the story evolves and the different challenges evolve, but they're sort of blended together in this really beautiful and modern way.
Yes.
That I think is really powerful for
Yes.
me. Yeah.
I agree with that it's kind of moved along with us in real time into a place where it does still feel relatable. And it feels like an authentic representation of a person who's living in that moment with the things that life has thrown at her, It really substantively explores the issues of grief and, parenting, where what hangs in the balance of the choices that you make are so much more consequential, because it's not just about you anymore, is it? And you don't have the luxury of worrying about the things that you used to pick on yourself about, and probably having grown to recognize that there's no value in that anyway, I think it's a beautiful mix of her essence that's so familiar, her optimism and her laughter, and how that sees her through most of life's challenges that we've experienced with her. But her vulnerability remains, and so does the messiness of life that we recognize, It still feels like, the message of, it really is okay to forge your own path, to not quite execute the plan with perfection, and that happiness after loss, really, it's possible. Depend on your community and your friends and, the people around you who are most precious,
That's lovely.
And of course, I had to talk with the director, Michael Morris, about what it was like to take on such an iconic project.
What do you think it is about Bridget Jones as a character that is just so relatable over the years?
It's two things. I mean, I think it's kind of what you've said, and by extension, what Helen originally wrote in those first columns, that became the books, that became the films, confessional quality, right? Like a sort of like bare it all, warts and all. And as played by Renee, she has become like a real person. And like how many films, certainly 24-year film franchises, have just at their heart like a real person who doesn't dress like a movie star or carry herself that way. And I think therefore I know for myself, I see myself in Bridget. Like she was she was the one out of all the kind of modern sort of, I guess, rom-com characters or even like film characters. Like I warmed to her because she reflected, my own sort of chaos. I think it's still that way.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.